This is Climate Watch. I'm Zhao Ying. Welcome to the show. Hydrogen is the lightest and most abundant element in the universe. It can be produced using a wide range of energy sources, from fossil fuels to clean electricity. When burned as fuel, it produces water instead of carbon dioxide, making it a potentially low-carbon energy option. However, today, hydrogen remains a relatively niche energy source. Most of it is still used in industrial processes like petroleum refining and fertilizer production. Yet, the ambition is much bigger. Many see hydrogen as a key tool to decarbonize hard-to-abate sectors like steel, aviation, and shipping, and even to store renewable energy. In China, hydrogen has been highlighted as a new driver of low-carbon transformation in the 15th Five-Year Plan. Countries like Australia are positioning themselves as future exporters of clean hydrogen, while Europe has also set ambitious targets to scale it up as part of its energy transition. So, can hydrogen help power a green future? Joining us today in the studio are Ji Guozhao, Associate Professor of Environmental Engineering at Dalian University of Technology, Joe da Costa, Emeritus Professor of Chemical Engineering at the University of Queensland. Gentlemen, it's great to have you both with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Joe, let me start with you. Hydrogen is the simplest element and the most abundant element in the universe, but only in recent years has it attracted so much attention as an energy source. So what makes hydrogen so special that many people now call it a future energy?
Well, first of all, in the case of hydrogen, it's a clean gas. It has no carbon. So when we burn pure hydrogen, we don't have any CO2 emissions. And CO2 emission is a greenhouse gas. It's causing a lot of climate change around the world, flooding. So in that sense, it can avert all those environmental problems. Another important issue is that hydrogen is a very important feedstock material for many industries, such as steel production, glass production, ammonia fertilizers, and petrochemical products. So eventually, green hydrogen will replace the needs that we have that currently comes from gray hydrogen, which is a gas that is produced from natural gas, and it is a non-renewable resource.
Guozhao, just now Joe mentioned some colors like gray hydrogen, green hydrogen, and also I think we have blue hydrogen, right? So what's the difference between them?
I think this depends on how hydrogen is made and what is the feedstock of the hydrogen production. If the hydrogen is produced from steam reforming of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas, this is green hydrogen. If the green hydrogen production process is combined with carbon dioxide capture and carbon dioxide utilization, this is blue hydrogen. And if the hydrogen is produced in the electrolyzer using the renewable electricity, like the electricity we produced from solar panels, from wind turbines, or from hydropowers, this is green hydrogen.
So Joe, what are the biggest challenges right now in producing green hydrogen at large scale?
Well, basically the big challenge is cost, because now natural gas is very cheap. And to produce hydrogen from natural gas is cheaper than to produce the green hydrogen using green energy. But now we must bear in mind that natural gas, it is a non-renewable resource. And as the reserves start reducing with time, we get to a point where the production of green hydrogen will be cheaper because the price of natural gas will be expensive. So there is a point in the future. We don't know when that point will be. In Europe, there is a perception that possibly Europe will face a deficit of hydrogen in the next 10 to 20 years.
Okay, so Guozhao, once hydrogen is produced, how is it actually used? Like, what are the main technologies that can convert hydrogen into useful energy or products?
There are many types of ways to utilize hydrogen. It can be used as energy carrier. It can also be used as chemical feedstock. The most popular way, I think most audience knows, is fuel cell. So if hydrogen is used in the fuel cell, hydrogen can be converted into electrical energy. But that requires very high purity hydrogen. The purity should be up to 99.999%. If the hydrogen purity is not that high, we can use hydrogen as a fuel to reduce the carbon dioxide emission. That is the energy utilization. For chemical feedstock, hydrogen can be used to synthesize ammonia, methanol, and in hydrocracking. In hydrocracking, we can use hydrogen to crack heavy oil into light fuels. And also in metallurgical engineering, we can use hydrogen to replace coal as the reducing agent for the iron making.
So, Joe, tell us more about the use of hydrogen, because some say hydrogen only makes sense in sectors that are very difficult to electrify, like steel, aviation, or shipping. I mean, do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I can see the use of hydrogen as a feedstock for high value added products. So in the industries that you're talking about, such as steel, in addition, another very important industry is the production of ammonia, because ammonia is a fertilizer, is for the production of food now around the world. So I think this view is correct, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. But looking ahead, what might a hydrogen-powered future look like for our ordinary households? Like, in the future, could green hydrogen eventually be used for our daily lives, like cooking, heating, or electricity?
That depends. Let's separate the scenarios you mentioned. For household cooking, I don't recommend using hydrogen because hydrogen is very easy to leak. It's highly flammable. And the reason we use hydrogen is to reduce carbon dioxide emission, to mitigate global warming. And household cooking is not a major contributor to the global warming. So I didn't see a necessity to use hydrogen for cooking. And we need to take a lot of risks to do this. So before we solve the global warming issue, we destroy the globe. That's very dangerous. But for heating and electricity generation, that is possible. Because in household heating, we use the water to circulate in the building. And the water is not heated in the building. It's heated in the centralized company. And they have specialized technology skills to control the risk. And it's same for power generation. I think for the other two scenarios, it's possible. And the only problem is the cost. If the cost is attractive, we can use it.
Okay, so the cost is the problem. And also, Joe, there are someone who argue that producing hydrogen from renewable electricity and then converting it back into power, this can lose about 60 to 70% of the original energy. So given these efficiency losses, where does hydrogen truly make sense in the energy system?
Well, it is pretty hard in the sense that I agree with the view that in this case, the use of hydrogen, it is not feasible because each time that we convert energy, we tend to lose the efficiency. Now, in this case, we convert from green electricity to hydrogen is one conversion, and then you go to the second conversion, converting back the hydrogen to electricity. So we got a double conversion and we got a double loss, so it's not really efficient. So there are other ways to use hydrogen. It's a more efficient way to produce high value added products.
Okay, so Guozhao, we know that China is expanding its hydrogen industry, and we also see in this year's government work report, it described hydrogen as a new growth driver. So what advantages does China have in this regard?
I think China has many advantages, and the most obvious advantage is we have abundant renewable sources for hydrogen production. China produces the most solar panels and the most wind turbines in the world. And we use the most wind turbines and solar panels. So we have massive renewable resources to generate green electricity, green hydrogen. And secondly, we have very strong industrial base. China has a massive chemical and petroleum industry, which are already used in ammonia and methanol production. We can retrofit the existing infrastructures and change the green hydrogen production to blue hydrogen and green hydrogen in the future. And the third reason is we have a huge hydrogen market. We want to reach the carbon neutrality aim in 2060. So we need to decarbonize our heavy industry. And lastly, we have good policies. Our government can give some incentives for tax. We can give finance encouragement for the companies to go for hydrogen.
Yes. So, Joe, just now Guozhao said China produces most solar panels and wind turbines in the world. China now actually also dominates the manufacturing of the most common type of electrolyzer used to produce green hydrogen. And it accounts for actually roughly 60% of the global market. So do you think China can, perhaps replicate its success in solar panels and also electric vehicles in the hydrogen sector?
Yes, no, I think so. Production of any goods require the know-how and require a strong industrial sector. So China has those two elements already. I can see that China can use its expertise, its know-how, it's strong in the industrial sector to lead the world in the production of electrolyzers.
Guozhao, we are now actually seeing more integrated wind, solar, hydrogen, ammonia projects, especially in Western China. So could green ammonia become like a key way to store and transport hydrogen?
Yes, I agree with the point. Ammonia as a hydrogen storage media has many advantages. As we know, hydrogen is very difficult to transport and store because the low energy density in terms of volume, not in terms of mass. One ammonia has 3 hydrogen molecules. It's efficient to store hydrogen. And ammonia is easy to compress at 10 bar and minus 33 centigrade. It can be compressed as a liquid. So liquid is the best form to store and transport hydrogen. And then we have existing infrastructures for ammonia storage and transportation in the fertilizer industry. So we don't need new infrastructures for the storage and transportation. Another advantage of ammonia is the high ignition point. It's not easy to be ignited compared to other forms of hydrogen storage media like methanol. So the high ignition point means a better safety.
Yeah, but Joe, producing hydrogen through electrolysis requires large amounts of purified water. So could this be a challenge, especially for the water-scarce regions in Western China?
Well, indeed, it's a major problem. And not only in China, but it's also a real challenge around the world. Because water is already a very important resource for human consumption as water, for irrigation in agriculture, and for industrial applications. So what's happened now is that there is a new technology that needs that resource, which is water. So the future of the green hydrogen now economy will really depend on the availability of water.
Okay, but are there any other options, like without using water, to generate hydrogen?
In the case of green hydrogen, we need water because it's a process that splits the hydrogen from the oxygen. Other processes, of course, is the production of gray hydrogen, which requires now natural gas.
Guozhao, I learned that your work uses biomass and waste to produce hydrogen. Can you tell us more about that? Does this mean hydrogen can help us solve our waste crisis while providing clean energy?
Yes, the biomass gasification or the organic waste gasification is a thermochemical process which could convert the organic stuff into hydrogen-rich syngas. In the hydrogen-rich syngas, of course, we have a lot of hydrogen. We also have some other components like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, methane, and some trace components. Actually, what we did is absorption-enhanced gasification. Where do we need absorption, CO2 absorption? This is because in gasification, there are many reactions which can produce hydrogen, like water gas shift reaction, methane steam reforming, methane dry reforming, methane decomposition, water gas reaction. These reactions are thermal reaction. Thermal reaction has thermodynamic equilibrium. That means the rate of consuming hydrogen and the rate of generating hydrogen occurs at the same speed, at the same rate. So in total, we don't generate more hydrogen. So we reached the maximum. And fortunately, carbon dioxide is always generated together with hydrogen. So they are in the same side of the chemical reaction equation. If we capture CO2 at the same time, we can break the thermodynamic equilibrium, and then we can produce more hydrogen. We can make the reaction go further and deeper to the hydrogen side. In this way, we generate more hydrogen. And then another reason for traditional gasification with very high temperature is the thermodynamic equilibrium. We want to favor the hydrogen production, so we increase the temperature. With sorption-enhanced gasification, we don't need high temperature because the thermodynamic equilibrium is already broken. And with lower temperature, we not only save the energy, we also save our catalyst. With lower temperature, the catalyst can survive longer. So we can avoid the catalyst sintering and deactivation. And the last point, that is right. The biomass waste gasification or other organic waste gasification not only produce the clean gas, clean hydrogen, it also eliminate the accumulation of organic solid waste. So we have both the environmental benefit and the energy benefit.
Okay, I see. But is this like the hydrogen made from the biomass and the waste? Is this green hydrogen or blue hydrogen?
I think it can be blue hydrogen because during the thermochemical process, we capture the CO2. So it's classified as blue hydrogen.
Okay, and also Guozhao, we know Dalian is actually a pioneer in China's hydrogen clusters. So has this biomass to hydrogen technology already scaled up in plants?
Yes, Dalian is a pioneer city for hydrogen energy. But as far as I know, the biomass gasification technology is not scaled up in Dalian. In Dalian, the hydrogen energy companies, they are most fuel cell producers. There are also some testing and certificating companies. This week on Monday, Joe and me visited the Dalian boiler and pressure vessel inspect company. They have very good facilities for hydrogen energy. In terms of biomass gasification, in Dalian, I don't know if they have a large plant, but recently in our province, in Shenyang, they launched a very big scaled up pilot for hydrogen production. The quantity each year they can produce is around 500,000 tons.
Yes. So Joe, can you tell us more about the bigger picture? Because I know you worked in consultancy and government advisory roles across Australia, the UK, Brazil, and Europe. So can you give us an overview of how hydrogen is currently being used around the world and whether the technology is ready for prime time deployment in global energy markets?
Sure. Well, in the case of hydrogen, it's highly used in petrochemical plants everywhere in the world. One of the major applications is the cleaning of diesel because diesel has sulfur, and so it is used for that. In terms of technology, what's happening around the world, we can look at Europe. Europe now has 78 approved hydrogen valleys in 20 countries. So there is an investment in Europe by at least of 125 million euros. For each euro that it is invested by the European Union, there is another possibly 5, 6, or 7 euros extra. So we are talking about investment of close to 1 billion euros. So that's about 8 billion Chinese yuan. So at the moment they have 6 large projects in Europe producing over 4 tons of green hydrogen. And some of the companies in Europe, such as the Portuguese company Galp, is already testing quite large electrolyzer to help the production of fuels in the petrochemical plant in Portugal.
But I know that globally, many green hydrogen projects have been delayed or cancelled due to costs and weak demand. So why do some countries struggle while others push ahead in this regard?
Sure. Well, in the case of Europe, they have a strategic vision for green hydrogen. So the European Union wants to be ready when the cost of grey hydrogen becomes really high, that they have the know-how, they have the industry to take over and produce hydrogen. Because as I said before, most likely in the next 10 to 20 years, they'll have a deficit in the production of hydrogen. Well, several countries, they cancelled the green hydrogen projects mainly on costs. But eventually, they'll have to go into the green hydrogen process. And so they'll have to set up the infrastructure, they'll have to set up the know-how, and possibly they'll have to buy it because they'll not have that in-house. So in that sense, the countries that got a more strategic view, they're going to be ahead of this game.
So, Guozhao, do you see opportunities for international cooperation, like between Australia, China, Europe, and the Americas in green hydrogen?
Yes, there are significant and growing opportunities for international cooperation in green hydrogen production between these countries and the regions. Like in Australia, they have very rich renewable resources, and China, we have a very significant advantage in scale-up technology. Reducing cost. We have very advanced manufacturing and technology. And I think in Europe, they're good at material development. For US can be the capital engine for the new technologies.
Yeah, so Joe, what do you make of the prospect of international cooperation in green hydrogen?
Sure. I think apart from those issues that are raised by Professor Ji Guozhao, I think when we have a new industry, a lot of things is called learn by doing. So the industry has to develop, and possibly one of the things would be safety systems, not only for the storage but also for the transportation of hydrogen, either in tanks or in pipelines. So in that sense, I think there will be a lot of collaboration in that area.
Okay, good. It's nice to hear that. But Guozhao, many people still associate hydrogen with the Hindenburg disaster on high pressure explosions. So how safe is hydrogen energy today, and have the technologies improved enough to address these concerns?
Regarding the Hindenburg catastrophe, that is almost 90 years ago, and that is the initial stage of human using hydrogen energy. And then, because at that time, we are not very skillful, we don't have enough knowledge to control hydrogen, and the catastrophe happened. But today, with the development of knowledge, skills and technologies, we have better control of hydrogen. I think in some specialized industry sectors, we can use hydrogen safely, and we have the risk assessment. We can start from some low-risk industries, and then with more confidence, with more skills, we can expand the hydrogen utilization to the surrounding industrial sectors.
Yeah, so Joe, anything you want to add? What do you think would it take to build the public trust on hydrogen?
Well, I think basically once you have the safety systems in place, that work quite well. Having said that, there is a law, it's called the Murphy's Law. And Murphy's Law said what will happen will happen. Mm-hmm. So quite often some of the accidents are caused by human error. Mm-hmm. So training will be very important, education very important. But all fuels got problems. It's not only hydrogen. Methane, natural gas has also problems. Gasoline has problems. Methanol has problems. So it is a question of ensuring that we have the systems in place that can protect people, can protect the environment, and if there are any failures, how those failures can be addressed that can never happen again.
Thank you, Joe da Costa, Emeritus Professor of Chemical Engineering at the University of Queensland, and Ji Guozhao, Associate Professor of Environmental Engineering at Dalian University of Technology. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
Thanks
for having me.
And that wraps up this edition of Climate Watch. You can find more episodes on your favorite podcast platforms. Just search for Climate Watch and hit subscribe. Don't forget to leave us a quick review or share it with a friend. You can also email us at radio@cgtn.com with your questions or feedback. And stay updated on the latest climate stories with our Substack newsletter, Climate Choices. I'm Zhao Ying. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.